Plastics are made from the non-renewable resource oil. Oil-based polymers utilize a great deal of this resource and present unworldly problems both environmentally and economically. Humans have a high natural consumption rate of single-use plastics. Now, this rate of consumption causes environmental problems like overfilling of landfills and excessive greenhouse gas emissions and irreversible damage to the aquatic biome, among many other things. Galvanis et al., a team of world-renowned ecologists, estimate that nearly 80 million tons of plastic end up in waterways each year. Economically, if this standard continues, the plastic industry alone will consume 20% of the Earth's oil reserves by the year 2050. The solution to this standard? Bioplastics, which are renewable materials generated from plant or animal waste. This poses the question, what is one element that all bio-waste shares? Carbon, which is essentially in the ability to manufacture bio-based polymers. By exploiting this element in bio-waste, these nations can utilize waste products to create new bio-based polymers. These waste products come from coconuts, disposable chopsticks, bananas, cannabis, agave, cocoa beans, and many other things, each of which these waste products can create sustainable and renewable biopolymers that remediate the need of their fossil-based predecessor. Accordingly, there's a dire need for the world to work collectively to remediate this problem concerning bio-waste. During this presentation, it is shown how different facets of the globe are utilizing their waste products to succeed in this venture. However, nothing is being done currently to promote international solidarity. Today, I will showcase this issue involving the world in all totality. With over a year's worth of research on this development, I've developed a codex of nations that abide by this standard. These nations are presented in this presentation with 3 different solutions for their waste epidemics. 1 is to scale a nation's waste product. 2, to replicate the industry pollution standard. And lastly, 3, disperse excess waste equitably between UN member states. Initially, the first solution to achieve this venture is to scale waste products. According to Investopedia, a coalition of leaders in the financial industry, they state one can achieve scale by increasing production and lowering cost. Applying this principle to the resolution yields, if nations increase the amount of waste products, they can lower the cost of producing biodegradable polymers by trading excess waste with other nations. Researchers Galvanis et al. Looked at the processing of banana and plantain waste in particular. They found banana and plantain waste equates to 20 to 30% of the available biomass of these fruits, i.e., the parts that aren't consumed by you or me. In 2019, Galvanis and their team discovered the country of Ecuador generated 750,000 metric tons of banana and plantain waste alone. This incredible figure came from the commercial and industrial applications that were researched by their team. They analyzed the production of creating banana flour, snacks, and vacuum-packed bananas and plantains. Now, if Ecuador was to scale its banana and plantain waste to, say, Canada, the burden of processing 750,000 metric tons of banana and plantain waste would no longer be Ecuador's to bear. Another example is seen on the other side of the globe in China, in quite a peculiar fashion. Yudong et al. In their peer-reviewed journal researched different communities' online food delivery and takeout option waste yields. In their study, Green Design and Recycling System of Chopstick Waste Caused by Online Food Delivery, astoundingly, Yudong and their colleagues found nearly 80 billion pairs of disposable chopsticks end up as single-use waste products annually. If China was to scale its disposable chopstick waste to the United States, the onus of recycling 80 billion pairs of disposable chopsticks would reduce dramatically. This would enable China to handle its disposable chopstick waste thoroughly and not have them wastefully end up stockpiling in landfills, serving zero benefits and causing exponential harm to the environment. In addition to China and Ecuador, the same principle can be established for all nations that I've researched within this codex. This principle? The nation that produces the most of a specific waste product shares that excess waste with surrounding nations and vice versa. This not only produces a standard of international solidarity, it marries economic theorist David Ricardo's standard of comparative advantage regarding international trade, and Jeremy Bentham's utilitarianism, or the most good for the most amount of people. The second solution in today's presentation resembles an industry standard that is sustained in the US and is regulated currently by the federal government. In the US, factories and corporations sell pollution rates to limit their greenhouse gas emissions. This transaction is regulated by the Environmental Defense Fund, or the EDF, and they state the best climate policy environmentally and economically limits emissions and puts a price on them. The government sets a cap across a given industry or ideally the whole economy. It also decides the penalties for violations. Now, emissions aside, the same principle can be applied to the nation's waste presented in this analysis. As such, this policy change works in tandem with the first solution mentioned. Each nation's government will decide on how much waste product they will harbor for their own resource and how much they will export to other nations. In accordance with the EDF, entities that do not abide by these standards will be penalized. Penalization incentivizes corporations not to harbor their waste products, thus fostering healthier relations with other trading nations. Now, in this globally interconnected waste transit, if you will, nations can now create new biodegradable polymers. This leads to innovation and reduces the global greenhouse emission footprint completely. The last solution in today's lineup is to determine a quota regarding the member states of the United Nations Council's bio-waste. According to the UN, it is the one place in the world where all nations can gather together, discuss common problems, and find shared solutions. The UN currently consists of 193 different nations. Enacting any policy change through this agency affects 193 different nations. Establishing a quota regarding waste products not only removes the burden of the nation in question, but it grants developing nations waste resources they are unable to yield currently. Utilizing the member states of Andorra and Belgium as an example, this benefit can be easily shown. According to Britannica Encyclopedia, Andorra has a boasting population of 80,000 persons, whereas Belgium has nearly 12 million. With this example, the population disparity is very apparent. Thus, Andorra may never have the waste yield that the populace of Belgium may ever produce. Enacting this policy would remove this standard entirely. With this exchange in waste products between UN nations, a country of 80,000 now has the same waste resources that a nation of 12 million has, well, respective to its population. With this trade of waste products between UN member states, these nations, 1, create jobs for their people, 2, create new revenue streams in their economy, and 3, foster healthy relations amongst their trading partners across the globe. Today, I showcased a dire issue plaguing the world in all totality. The issue? The need for single-use biodegradable alternatives that utilize waste products in a globally interconnected interface. I utilized over a year's worth of research on this issue, developing a codex of nations that abide by this standard. These nations were presented with 3 different solutions to solve their current waste epidemics. 1, scale a nation's principal waste product. 2, replicate the industry pollution standard. And lastly, 3, disperse excess waste equitably between UN member states. By means of these 3 different solutions, we create a world grounded in international solidarity. We reduce tariffs on imported and exported goods for almost all nations. We create new revenue streams in nations' economies. And lastly, we bring third world countries out of the ever-ending cycle of poverty. All of these nations, they now have waste diversity with these given solutions. This enables them to equitably search for and process waste into new biodegradable alternatives. The importance? We create a more utopian society and a brighter tomorrow, starting with the actions that we take today.